I grew up in Lebanon, Kentucky, and when I was in middle school, all these parents of my classmates started getting arrested. 70 guys from Kentucky were arrested on 30 farms in 10 states with 200 tons of marijuana between 1985 and 1989. And so I knew that these stories had a currency in the culture. Like, it wasn't just a great story from where we were from. People needed to know this story. It was important for Americans to know that this happened where it did and who it happened to. It was a good story. And after coming back home from school, I wanted to tell that story to the world and went about writing the first nonfiction account of the Cornbread Mafia.
As Jim's cousin, I've seen Jim go through 6 years of writing the book to then publishing the book. And here we are 10 years later. Jim knows the farmers, he knows Kentucky hemp, and he knows the story. And I knew customer service, website, direct to consumer, all that stuff. And so the light bulb clicked when we started talking about it.
He literally wrote the book on Kentucky's illegal marijuana industry.
My reporting in this space really helped me understand that Kentucky is the best place in the country to grow hemp. Based on the work, based on the journalism, based on the connections that I made along the way, I became an expert at every facet of this industry, from the culture and the history, to the current production, to the current politics and policy, to the current industry standards.
When we looked around the industry and saw the brands and the quality of the product and the customer service and the websites that were out there, it was fascinating.
The CBD industry was the Wild West. There was a lot of bad actors making bad products and giving the industry a bad reputation.
The way I've always seen great businesses run is with people out in front, providing quality service and a quality product. And every single brand we looked at was the complete opposite of that. And so we felt like we had to do the industry justice by jumping in and providing a template, really, for how a CBD company should be operated the right way.
So when we started this company, we knew it was an uphill battle. This was a David and Goliath story. We had to outperform. And the only way we could do that is with the best product. And so we set about to make the best products. And the way we got there is by being the first Kentucky company to offer USDA-certified organic CBD products, using only the flowers in our extraction process, extracting them only with organic sugarcane ethanol, blending it only with organic medium-chain coconut oil. These are the steps where we don't take shortcuts, where we bring this plant in its most wholesome fashion into a bottle, into a product, directly to our customers.
At the end of the day, a review will come in from someone just saying, you know, like, this product changed my life. Thank you. What more can you ask for?
We get feedback all the time from customers that tell us that our products are helping them anecdotally through this period of time, and that our products mean a lot to them, and they come back to us every month, and that means everything. It's about taking the story and combining it with the plant and the products to communicate to people that something is great here, and we do it really, really well.
It's just our commitment to really the three principles: product quality, customer service, and transparency. And that's why we're here.
I can't find a seconder usually when I prepare this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my hand.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele, attorney at law in Daphne, Alabama. You found the Heart of Dixie podcast number 13 on Friday the 13th. Not that anybody's superstitious about that kind of stuff, especially Brandon Mosley, considering the choice of shirt he has on today. How are you today, Brandon?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Harry. How are you?
I'm good. So Brandon's our co-host and reporter and content manager at the Alabama Gazette. And today we are joined by James Higdon of the Cornbread Hemp Company, a.k.a. the author of the Cornbread Mafia. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So I like that Friday the 13th busting through the door stuff. You're in Kentucky, and you are a journalism student. At one point in time, you went to Brown.
I mean,
that's pretty awesome.
Don't rat me out, but yeah, I went to fancy school.
You blue-blooded son of a bitch. Tell me all about it.
I went to fancy school. Born in Kentucky. Went up northeast
to Thurston Howell the Seventh, and who was your grandmother?
I am James Cecil Higdon the third, but it ain't that kind of third. You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm one too. Yeah, yeah. A lot of good it did me.
I grew up. My parents owned an IGA grocery store in Lebanon, Kentucky, and that's my first job, second job, third job, and fourth job was working at a grocery store in a small town.
Yeah, so most graduates of Columbia Journalism School, you seem to be doing okay. You're not doing journalism.
I'm not doing journalism. I've got a lot of former classmates from J School who've hit hard times in the journalism world. I found a good time to get out of the bleachers and into the game. As a journalist, there's not often an opportunity to make that transition from what you're writing about, what you're covering, into getting involved in the industry itself. So it's not always doesn't always happen this way, but I hit it just right and found a good moment to make the transition.
So are y'all in Frankfort or Louisville?
We're in Louisville, but I'm often in Frankfort, the state capital.
That's the state capital, and it says y'all are fastest growing CBD brand in America, and that was March 2023, and you guys raised some $2 million.
Oh yeah, this is our WeFunder page. WeFunder is this great. It's a crowdfunding site. It's like folks would be familiar with Kickstarter. It's similar to Kickstarter, except instead of raising money just for a project, you can actually raise money for equity. So we've raised something like on WeFunder, we've done 2 different rounds. We raised something like $700,000-800,000 from something like 1,500 investors. Minimum investment was $100, and average investment ends up being somewhere around $500 or $600. So we got a lot of customers invested in the company, and found a lot of new customers as investors coming in to invest in what we're doing. So it's just been a very great way to meet folks and to empower our customers into celebrating our success with us.
So are they getting common shares? How are they?
It's preferred shares.
Okay.
So not common. They have a preferential payout at a liquidation event. They're in a preferred share class.
Oh, thank God, you're smart. Okay, so and on top of that, you guys were recognized by the Louisville Business First as the 4th fastest growing company in Louisville and Southern Indiana. Did I get that right?
That's right. So that's Fast 50. That's very similar to the Inc. That's a local version of the Inc. 5000. Inc. 5000. You pointed out we were named the 122nd fastest growing company in America, the number 1 fastest growing company in Kentucky, and certainly the fastest growing hemp company regarding all that. In fact, like in the top 10 of all consumer products on the Inc. 5000 list last year.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is the state of Kentucky sees you as a legitimate businessman, and here we are excited to see Louisville-based company continue to grow and expand its presence in our city, said Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg. Last year's company committed to adding 4,600 new jobs in Louisville. He goes on to say, the president and CEO goes on to say, I'm thrilled to see Cornbread Hemp and GLI investors and Greater Louisville Company expand its operations in our region. And you guys created 50 new jobs with $1 million investment. Is that right?
And that $1 million investment kind of, continues over the next few years. But yeah, just to give you an idea, we started this year, this calendar year, with 51 employees. here in Louisville for the most part. We have some remote workers, but almost everybody is in the shop. And we're about to cross the threshold into 100 employees. So we've hired 50 employees over the last 5 months.
Okay. And so is this recent April 24th of this year where you guys launched your THC seltzer?
You got it. Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to look at some of your products here for a minute. Okay. So
you got it.
I can tell you, I've looked at a lot of websites, and I actually did a podcast about the THCA loophole or whatever you want to call it in the 2018 Farm Bill. That's how it's referred to around here. Yes, and so when we did that, I went to some of these websites like JK Distro and some other, cookies, some other popular places that people may know and have seen products. Your website is awesome. Okay. So check this out. So Brandon, you know how we're having this debate about, you were saying, hey, they're selling 300 milligram gummies, and I'm going, it don't matter because your body can't absorb but 30 milligrams an hour or whatever it is. The more you might eat so much gelatin that it makes you physically ill, but it's not the THC that's making you ill. So anyway, they're giving you a dosage for what if you're a newbie or you don't have any experience with these things. And then it gives you a ratio and all that. And then there's your new seltzers. And I see that this one won the High Spirits Award. Was that in California? Did y'all enter this into a drink competition?
That's the LA Spirits Award in California. Yes, sir. So we entered all 4 flavors of the LA Spirits Awards, and all 4 flavors won medals. This one, the raspberry lime, is a silver medalist. We got 1 silver, 1 bronze, and 2 golds, I think.
So, and again, given it's a 5 milligram seltzer, it says how do I find the sweet spot? How many cans do I need? All that kind of information. I think that's great. And also nutritional facts, right? And like you said, or like your partner said, the reviews on your website, I mean, I know it's your website and you probably police it a little bit, but they look to be legitimate reviews and everybody has positive things to say about your products. So the other thing that I like is that you provide with the batch that you're selling the actual testing documents. And I don't know who Jamie Habgood is, but hopefully he is a certified lab by the state of Kentucky. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you're one of these guys trying to do the right thing. And did you expand your business into Alabama? Can you tell us a little bit about your products and your experience here?
Sure. I was just in Birmingham. We're launched in distribution in the state of Alabama right as this legislation passed in Alabama. So it kind of caught us off on a bad foot. We developed a good relationship with the distributor and getting ready to rock in Alabama, only to have every retailer in the state kind of clam up, not understanding what this new law looks like. So we're very eager to get it right. And then on top of being in distribution in Alabama, so the new law allows us to be in distribution for beverages in Alabama, but will not allow us to maintain our existing relationships with our Alabama customers that they have a relationship with through direct to consumer. So that's a challenge that we're going to have to solve one way or another. But the strangest thing is that we have we have thousands of customers in Alabama through our direct to consumer business that either on July 1st or January 1st, depending on how you read that bill that passed, that's going to stop.
Okay.
According to the Attorney General, he issued an opinion on the bill saying it's July 1. So technically, a hemp product with psychoactive levels that is in a store in Alabama can be sold legally on June 30th. Like the smokables. The smokables will become illegal July 1. If you're in possession, yeah, you can go to jail now. It's like, and I talked with the owner. He's Chad Martin. He's running for governor. He's the owner of the oldest hemp store in Alabama. He said that legal product today will be a class C felony under the bill. It's actually, you're better off if you got arrested for recreational marijuana.
That's right. If you can imagine that, the one product that we have, so look, everybody, 50% of the population wants to party some of the time. I don't know what that means. If it's alcohol, if it's THC, if it's cocaine, if it's, brown tar, heroin, whatever. People are going to get their hands on this stuff. So why in the hell would we ban the only thing you can't overdose on? And why, if you have good actors like yourself, let me ask you this question. Is there a portal that's been set up for a distributor like yourself to make contact with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, who's now going to be in charge of hemp? Do you even know where to go to begin to comply with the law to be a compliant distributor?
So, like being forced into the 3-tier system is a new experience for us. We're experiencing it in multiple states simultaneously. I'm not going to speak to the effectiveness of the Alabama ABC. I have enough trouble with the Kentucky ABC at the moment. So I'm not trying to pick a fight with every ABC. So let me have an opportunity to meet the good people at Alabama ABC and have a conversation with them first before I take an opportunity to criticize them.
So were you involved in fighting with the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America at the congressional level, or is that a concerted effort?
These folks are not our friends.
I know.
I'm
asking, are you fighting them?
These folks want to put me out of business. I'll share with you that the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America have published a model legislation document, and that the bill Alabama passed and Tennessee passed, but the bill that Alabama passed seems to be modeled very closely along the model legislation proposed by this industry. That the reason why these changes are happening are not to protect public safety or consumer safety or anything else other than to protect the 3-tier system that has monopolized the control of alcoholic beverages for 90-some years.
So we saw a few weeks ago there were some activists in Texas who called on the governor to veto their version of this bill. And have you been keeping an eye on that?
Well, now just to for an apt comparison, the Alabama bill is bad, but at least it allows something. The Texas bill is a full ban of everything, of every federally legal hemp-derived THC product. It narrowly allows CBD isolate and CBG isolate products, which are not very effective, and is essentially going to wipe out an $8 billion industry inside of Texas. And so it's, that's a different problem to solve than what's happening in Alabama. But yeah, the calls for the governor to veto that ban continue to rise. The governor has until midnight on June 22nd to decide to veto it or not. And every day that goes by that he doesn't seems to increase the chances that he might. There's polling released in Texas that shows that only 20% of Texans support a total ban. And when you look at it in terms of Republican primary voters, that number only increases to like 35%, which means a plurality of Texan Republican primary voters and a vast majority of all Texans want the governor to veto and regulate. And so feels like maybe, not to get too optimistic about stuff, but that could happen. And we sent a huge signal all across the country, especially in the South, that prohibition for cannabis is dead and we need to move on from it. And these wine and spirits wholesaler folks, what they want to do is they want to capture all of the hemp-derived business that they can into the systems that they control, and then they want to outlaw and ban everything else. So they want to capture beverage distribution for hemp products under their control and then ban all direct-to-consumer sales, all edibles that are not the products that they sell. So 10 milligrams in a beverage, they want it. 10 milligrams in a gummy, they want that illegal. 10 milligrams in a beverage through the 3-tier system, they want it. 10 milligrams in a beverage shipped directly to your door, they don't want it.
Where it either has to be sold in a grocery store with 14,000 square feet, or it has to be sold at a specialty shop, or it has to be sold at a, I guess, ABC store. Is that a possibility?
I mean, those just seem to, I mean, I think you just read off the requirements of the new bill. I don't know how 14,000 square feet and 75% grocery became the determination for what qualifies, but that does seem to be the case.
Any more insights in Alabama, Brandon?
There was issues in Alabama where there was product on the shelf, that wasn't consistent, that wasn't predictable. Did the whole industry kind of get a bad rap because of its worst actors?
Oh, well, the worst actors gave prohibitionists an excuse to put the foot down. But just to be clear, why we have unregulated bad actors in the first place is because the FDA refused to issue regulations at the federal level after the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill. Everyone assumed that the FDA would regulate the products that Congress legalized, and the FDA refused to. And my feeling is that the FDA refused to because their paymasters in the pharmaceutical industry are afraid of our products because our products make people take less drugs. And they didn't want our products mainstreamed into mainstream society, and blocking FDA regulations of them is one way to do that. And by blocking the FDA regulations, it allowed bad actors to proliferate and granted prohibitionists an opportunity to take a swing at us by allowing the bad actors in the marketplace to represent the whole thing. So yes, but also, it's not really a fair comparison to use the worst actors among us to regulate us all out of business. But the second kick to that mule is that by telling themselves a story that this is all just bad actor, cheap, intoxicating products that teenagers want to get at smoke shops and convenience stores, lawmakers are going to find out the hard way that the majority of the customers for these products are women over 50 in the suburbs who know how to pick up their phone and talk to their legislator. So there's going to be a lot of ears that get chewed out over people going too far with this D2C ban of hemp products.
We had an issue a few years back with doctors over-prescribing opioids.
Uh-huh.
And then, so the legislatures and the federal government cracked down, and some of the worst actors there were, some were jailed, but, it's gotten a lot harder to get opioids. But instead of curing that, now you can't get them anymore. The person that was popping Lortabs, 10 times a day for dubious reasons, that went to the book, that got outlawed, and it seemed like a lot of those people ended up in a street corner, buying crap off the street, like fentanyl and, heroin. I mean, heroin made a big comeback, and we suddenly had 100,000 deaths from overdosing. Are you concerned that when states like Texas is even more stricter than Alabama, but when people go to the store and can't buy the products that they have been buying, that they'll go to the illegal market, and the drug dealer on the street just wants to sell you whatever he can sell you?
That's right. There's no one on the street. That drug dealer on the street's not checking ID for making sure the customer's over 21 or doing a third-party lab test to make sure that there's no contaminants in the product. And Texas is even worse. Again, Texas is even worse. Like, they have this limited medical marijuana program in Texas that they call Teacup. But in order for a person to access teacup, they have to show that they've been on opioids for like 90 days before they'll allow them access to cannabis products. So they're forcing potential cannabis users into opioids and making them take opioids before they'll qualify for the cannabis program.
That sounds genius.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
And dumber, apparently. So anyway, we had our local bill here. Didn't seem like there was much to it. We also passed police immunity, and I wanted to lay this on Brandon. So Alabama sheriff's indicted for absolutely refusing to follow the law. So what law is that? That he have certified officers working for him. Says Secretary Alan Benefield, who is one of the biggest villains working for the state of Alabama. But anyway, nevertheless, it looks like this sheriff is going to be removed from office, potentially, Brandon. Like, how does this work when you get criminally charged as
I mentioned
sheriff?
this when that particular bill passed. It's like, it does a bunch of cool things, but it had in there that your officers all had to be APO certified, and you can't have, these road towns or sheriffs hiring their cousin or whatever, so they have to have APO certified officers. And apparently this sheriff refused to comply, and he's going to be probably removed because of it.
Yeah, but
we had a ceremonial bill signing yesterday here at the governor's office,
right,
where we, signed all of the police immunity bill and everything else. And the Speaker of the House went to social media, and he said, "We are now the most law enforcement friendly state in the entire country."
And least business friendly, apparently. So along the same lines of everybody having to play by the rules. So the state of California got away from the multi-state bar exam, only to find, guess what? A bunch of incompetent son of bitches passed the bar. So yeah, they're having to go back to the olden ways. I thought you'd like this, Brandon. The Mobile City Council says the Montgomery Conference Center and other conference spaces are acting as strip and nightclubs. People come to town, call up a bunch of hewers, and have a party. I don't know why anybody else would come to Montgomery unless there's alcohol and women dancing on tables. Marcus Sanders is the fella who's been charged in the shooting of at the children's dance recital in the Sanger Theater. And, of course, guess what we've done? What? Oh, we're using this tragedy, Matt Simpson is, along with former Sheriff Hoss Mack. They got that wrong. He's now the head of the Sheriff's Association and one of the architects of, your problem bill, Mr. Higdon. Anyway, they've taken the opportunity to come up with a new bill that says if you shoot into a crowd of people and endanger a bunch of folks, you can now be charged with capital murder. So
they want to expand capital murder so we can execute more folks. I think we already execute more people per capita than any other state, but if we can increase that, that seems to be our goal for the next legislative session. So
NAACP condemns comments by sheriff, says they could incite violence. So this is in retaliation.
The sheriff suggested that he was fine with people plowing their car through a bunch of protesters on the interstate. I don't want any protesters across the interstate, but we really don't need to run over them either.
Yeah, well, he also said last week that he'd like to round them all up and put them in a stadium, just let them shoot each other. Did you catch that one?
Yeah, he said that as well.
Yeah, he's out there on the edge. So only a Democrat could spend this much money on a police facility. City of Tuscaloosa has a groundbreaking for new police logistics building, 7,600 square feet, 6 bays for emergency vehicles, blah, blah, blah. Good old Walt Maddox. Residents question joke of a meeting over $350 million Alabama resort. And guess where? Just north of Tuscaloosa. What's that? Northport. Yeah. A $350 million resort. And they were supposed to have a public input meeting. And much like the cannabis stuff, you know, when we all showed up and tried to speak, it was they had 3 minutes on the clock for everybody. So anyway, that's how that stuff works. Yes, it's a false flag, honey. Okay. So we're going to watch this, boys. Y'all ain't gonna believe this mess. Let me see if I can find which one of my Twitters this is on.
So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order.
Well, you know, the one thing I'll say about law enforcement is them boys sure stick together, because when some lawyer gets in trouble out in San Diego, California, I could give a shit, right? But if something happens to somebody in law enforcement, my brother out in San Diego, something terrible happened to him. Did you any argument there, Brandon? I mean, ain't nothing happened to any deputies in Florida.
The protest that started in L.A., last week, and we've got troops, battling. That's going nationwide. We're supposed to have 13 protests here in Alabama on Saturday.
Yeah, there were 11 people that showed up in Nashville this morning to this big protest they were supposed to have. I don't think it's going the way they think it's going.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know how many people are showing up in Scottsboro, Alabama tomorrow for a protest. I just know one is organized. I got them in Jacksonville, Mobile, Montgomery, Birmingham, Auburn, Tuscaloosa. It may just be a way for Democrats to go out in the street and show they actually still exist in the state. But
okay, but you got to admit, moving a Cobra helicopter over there to fly around downtown, it's probably got more to do with what just kicked off. I don't know if you guys watch Alex Jones, but this guy's been going nuts all day about World War III and nuclear Armageddon. It appears that Israel pulled a surprise attack and killed basically all of the command structure. They
killed multiple people in the Iranian military command, including the second in command of Iranian armed forces. They've killed multiple nuclear scientists, Iran says they still won't sign the deal with the U.S. And it's like, okay, Israel's just going to keep attacking, and the U.S. isn't going to call them off unless Iran, does some sort of deal.
Okay, so
they want to escalate it and cause more trouble, then they may have U.S. bombers in there.
Okay, well, that's the question: is did we intercept all of these? Did we help intercept drones headed to Israel, or did we really have nothing to do with this? Because we kind of sent a bunch of people to the West Coast under what might have been a false flag, and last week got everybody the hell out of the Baghdad, said everybody get out of the embassies in Baghdad.
Well, they knew an attack was coming, and an attack came. So was wise.
Yeah, I would guess so. So anyway, Trump spoke out via social media platform Truth Social on Friday morning, reacting to the news that Israel had launched an overnight attack. I'm sure he was totally in the dark about it, right? So anyway,
there are reports that American tankers may have been used to help Israel. They probably weren't in Iran, but that they may have been used to allow those Israeli planes to help reach Tehran, because it took a bunch of tanker aircraft to pretty much extend the range of the F-15s that we've sold to Israel all the way to Tehran, do bombing missions. They from what I'm reading, they pretty much had their way over Iran last night.
So is David Sling, I know what Iron Dome is. Is David Sling part of their offensive system? Is that a kinetic offensive
that's
system?
an anti-missile missile.
Oh, that's an anti-missile missile.
Sort of like our Patriot.
So have you seen this damn thing? Looking ahead, shaping the future of naval power as the USX-1 Defiant undergoes its first trials. So this is an unmanned ship.
Yeah, unmanned ships that go off and shoot missiles at people.
Yeah, that DARPA came up with just in time for World War III. Isn't that nice? So, did you see this? The craziest thing ever. One dude survived this plane crash in India. Yeah. 241 people on board India Flight 171 died when the plane crashed shortly after takeoff June 12th. One person survived.
That was the first crash of the Dreamliner.
Yeah, so always if you're in seat 11A, that's the magic seat, 11A on the Dreamliner. That's the one you want. So Beach Boys founder Brian Wilson dies after 82 years of mental illness, or wasn't that the story that he was crazy? I don't know. I think he just
that's before my time.
So did everybody see the puppy killer was having a press conference, and Democratic Senator Alex Padilla tries to break in and have a conversation or interrupt her, and he is tackled to the ground and by Secret Service, I guess is who it was. Anyway.
Wait a minute. Before we go, just to jump in here, Brian Wilson was a genius, and Pet Sounds is one of the greatest records ever made. So,
see there,
he mental illness did plague him for much of his life, and he was taken advantage of, I think, by people around him because of it. But he gave us some amazing music in the meantime, and so let's make sure we remember him for Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations and California Girls and not the bad stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, anyway, this was a big deal until the whole war thing kicked off. Did you hear anything about this, Brandon? I mean, it's unusual that a U.S. senator would be manhandled.
Oh, yeah. Tommy Tuberville said that Padilla deserved to be tackled.
Of course he did.
Yeah. This would have been the lead story had we not had Israel last night.
This afternoon, the FBI Dallas team announced a huge takedown of child abusers in Texas. 109 child abusers, almost 250 offenders, nearly 400 total charges at the state level. Operation Soteria Shield.
That's the one thing that bothers me with creating new crimes is I'm not convinced we do the greatest job of catching the actual criminals that we do have.
Right.
If there's people out there doing child sex crimes or abusing children, I kind of think that needs to be a higher priority than whether, somebody is possessing of hemp, that is legal in the state next door, but they mistakenly crossed the state line with it. It's like, okay, yes, that's going to be illegal, but do we have the jail space, the court resources? Do we want to be tied up with these new criminal activities that is legal today, and is still going to be legal in a lot of states. I'm not necessarily opposed to cracking down on, outlaw hemp, the smokables and whatnot, but everything I would like to see not exist in our society can't all of a sudden become a crime it does exist.
And nor would you want to have to fund the governmental overlord apparatus to enforce your perfect little world, Brandon. You know what I mean?
I don't like rap music, but I don't know that you should give Brandon the authority to, arrest rap musicians because they're rap musicians.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about RFK Jr. He stumbled out of the gate a little bit, saying the most, the worst thing going on in America right now is anti-Semitism. He kind of lost me for a second. But now a child must take between 69 and 92 vaccinations to stay in school in some states. And anyway, he basically fired the entire what do they call it? The whatever the little board is that recommends our vaccination schedule.
Was supposed to be overseeing that the vaccines that are given are safe, and it's like, well, you passed this through Operation Warp Speed, and you also you were giving it to infants, and it had never really been tested, and we have no idea what the long-term effects are. What is y'all's purpose again? It's like maybe this is all completely safe, but it was deployed with only a minimum of testing.
Yeah, first do no harm, assholes. So RFK Jr. is preparing to ban pharmaceutical ads on television. We're going to see a change in the things that we see on programs like Meet the Press, where Pfizer isn't paying $1 billion to have Dr. Scott Gottlieb be the damn expert on Meet the Press.
I think the horse is out of the barn on this. I mean, they may put some regs in place and try to take some of the most extreme examples off the air. We should, as a country, should never have allowed this. But, I mean, you can't watch a football broadcast. I mean, I remember when you watched football and you had these beer companies, less filling tastes great, arguing back and forth, and they had all kinds of cool former coaches and former athletes arguing, and you saw that the latest Ford F-150, why this F-150 is better than the last F-150 you bought. Now you flip on a game, and it's something to, improve your sex life, or, allows you to have clearer skin, or, deals with a heart deal.
Right. Who actually asked their doctor about a drug that they saw on television? Nobody. It's a way for the pharmaceutical companies to put money into these people's pockets. I guarantee you there's people
that do that. It's like that. People don't think they have this condition, and then you show them a bunch of ads, and they're convinced they have this condition, and this drug will cure them, and their life will be better. Drug companies wouldn't do it if it didn't work.
This thyroid eye disease that Graves' disease or whatever this bullshit stuff is. Okay, so anyway, along the same lines, Arkansas families are to sue to keep the Ten Commandments out of the classroom before the new law takes effect. I'm sure that's shortly coming to a Alabama courtroom near us.
We almost passed that. Remember we interviewed Representative Mark Gidley. He was the sponsor of that here in Alabama. That cleared the House. But when Bobby Singleton and Roger Smitherman did their filibuster on the last 3 days of the session, a whole bunch of House bills that were in the queue to pass didn't. Because Gidley had his way, and the Senate had handled their business and actually passed bills on the last day. Yeah, Alabama, in addition to our deal, we would have had the Ten Commandments plus other historical documents like the Magna Carta would be required to be posted in every single public school in the state of Alabama.
Okay,
Hey, I'm for some Ten Commandments.
I got a question about this Ten Commandments thing. Which version of the Ten Commandments are we posting in these schoolhouses and stuff? Like,
I think it's in the original Aramaic. That would be the most accurate. That's what we should do.
Are we going to have the Catholic Ten Commandments, or are we going to have the Protestant Ten Commandments?
Oh, Protestant, definitely. The hell will you Catholics do?
Of whether you can, coveting your neighbor's wife should be its own commandment or not. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for Jim. So, Jim, with the Republican governor, a Republican-controlled Senate, and a supermajority in the House, how much money did these bastards pay to our legislators when they failed to, at the end of the session, pass the layup bill that would get them all great press, which is putting the Ten Commandments back in schools, number one, and number two, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Two layups that they couldn't get through because they didn't have time, but they had plenty of time to drill your ass, didn't they?
I guess so. I mean, maybe there's just not. There's not an 11 commandments out there competing against the 10 commandments. Might be the answer there.
Well, we like to interject the scientific method every once in a while into
the churches need to come up with the same lobbyists that the alcohol industry apparently is using.
Yeah, no kidding. So, body of a Orange Beach man found after drowning. An estimated 3,500 to 4,000 people drown each year, average 10 fatality drownings per day. And this happened down here in Orange Beach. Dwayne Stevens, 55, of Orange Beach, and I think he works for the city is what I heard. Anyway, as it's Friday the 13th, and we know their track record down there, and we're glad they found him at all. Last guy that went missing, it took him a couple days, and they didn't even search. So another thing I thought was funny, with all these damn police boats and everything, Brandon, why is it that Daphne Search and Rescue had to come down and recover this man's body? They don't have any frogmen in Orange Beach?
Well, they probably called in, a bunch of their friends that had boats. So, it was probably, we know Orange Beach has a boat because remember from Danny Williams.
17 or so.
Well, so they probably, called out their friends that had boats, and apparently Daphne's the one that did the job and found him.
Yeah.
That's off the Daphne police.
Just like to give a quick shout out to Orange Beach, Alabama. It's a nice place down there. We've been down there a few times and really enjoy ourselves. That state park y'all got right there on Orange Beach that's run by Hilton is super nice.
Gulf State Park.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hugh Brannion State Park.
Money hand over fist.
There's a seafood place just off that main street. It's called Lairdague's. And you can go to Lairdague's and get you a pound of shrimp steamed and take it in a little styrofoam container off to the beach. And it's a great way to experience Orange Beach, Alabama.
So, do you know who the Ant-Man is? The real Ant-Man?
That's
not the basketball player.
Right. So this guy was a biologist, and he became professor emeritus of biology at Harvard. And he just happened to come along, and he was studying all these different species of ants, and he decided to take a genetic sample and see if there were genetic differences between them. And so there's so many damn ants on the planet, and he was eating up so much of the server at Harvard to make peace with everybody. He said, well, look, why don't we do genetic testing on everything on Earth and put it in this database? So that will outlive him. He is the nexus for this idea for the tree of life, which continues now that he's passed. But more importantly, a partnership featuring the Nature Conservancy in Alabama, Patagonia's Holdfast Collective, and an undisclosed donor resulted in the purchase of 8,000 acres for conservation in the Mobile-Tensar River Delta, and that's going to be known as the E.O. Wilson, what are they calling it? The Land Between the Rivers Preserve. And, of course, that's Dr. Wilson there. And up, yep, he passed. So, that's what this was for. It was for Nodine. So, Nodine is having trouble.
He's still in this race.
Nope, he dropped out today. He ends his
Okay.
mayor
He
campaign.
should have sent me a press release.
Yeah, he was having trouble getting his pardon worked out in time to take office because he's got a crime of moral turpitude on his record. And of course I wanted to. So Jim, if you go to the Naval Academy in Great Britain or China or anywhere else, Lord Nelson is chapter 1 and Raphael Sims is chapter 2. He essentially crippled the entire U.S. merchant fleet with a steamer with a couple of cannons strapped to the hood. And, of course, because he was a Confederate, when the Black Lives Matter riots happened, they essentially said either Admiral Sims comes down or we're going to burn the city down. And, of course, in an act of cowardice, the mayor capitulated. An Admiral Sims statue has been removed, and I was hoping that someone would put it back, but apparently that's a bridge too far for our elected officials in Mobile who are all, trying to be everybody's friends and ended up being no one's friend.
I'm from Kentucky, Harry, and my people fought for the Union, 10th Kentucky Volunteer Union.
Red legs? You a damn red legger?
I'm a blue jacket.
There you go. So the Honeybee Park Amphitheater is coming soon. It's $3.4 million in Robertsdale, and of course, $2 million of that was Go Mesa funding. Now I don't know, Robertsdale's a good way from the coast, but I'm glad they got their Go Mesa funding. Last night we had a Leadership Baldwin County reunion down at the Bluegill. And so I was not able to attend, but Judge Bosch's retirement party at the Fairhope Brewing Company. But we wish her well in her retirement. No cartilage left in their knees, but they're both on the bench. Only in Alabama could a husband and wife lawyers who aren't from Baldwin County be appointed to the bench in Baldwin County.
Well, now, Harry, one, do you have to be an attorney to get these appointments? And you have to apply to the governor's office. So when Bosch left, who contacted the governor's appointments office with, suggestions on attorneys that we can appoint.
One more time, there's 7,000 attorneys in Baldwin County that aren't husband and wife.
Yeah, but how many actually sent resumes to the governor's?
A bunch, and we have a board down here. So they get nominated by the bar, the local bar, 3 people, and it goes up to the governor's office, and then she chooses somebody from those 3. She interviews them, or somebody does. But anyway,
so was she in the 3 that they selected, or did they go around?
She was in one of the 3. She worked for the Department of Human Resources. Fill in the blank.
So it's probably the best person got it then. Think positive.
I'm sure. Look, she's competent. That's not the problem. It's never, the competency is never the problem when it comes to the bench. It's the politics. So you remember last time we had, or not last time, 2 podcasts ago, we had Dr. Nicole Wadsworth on with us. She's running for lieutenant governor, and I'm just going to tell you, this is probably one of the worst things I've ever heard happen to anybody in Alabama politics, okay? So the campaign manager for Alabama lieutenant governor candidate recently admitted falsely telling the media that said candidate had received a PhD from the University of Alabama. And here, and the hit pieces just start rolling out, just one after another after another. Entire campaign staff
political
quits.
attack was very well timed and very well coordinated.
Yes, it was. And so anyway, whoever this Hunter Weathers guy is with HMW Consulting LLC, yeah, I got no use for him, and especially what he did, the way he hung his candidate out to dry, and I hope he never works again. Isn't he about to graduate from law school somewhere?
Yeah, I think he's going to law school, so he's probably going to give up candidate consulting.
It's going to be it'll be a great addition to the Alabama State Bar. Maybe I'll write an ethics letter about his involvement in this whole thing.
Yeah, fortunately, he was not an attorney at the time, so it's not a bar issue.
Yeah, I think it is. If you're a candidate, so you have to make application, and the whole time you're in law school, you're on probation, and you only get to sit for the bar if you cover that hurdle. So being involved in the takedown of a political consultant who paid you money sounds completely unethical to me. But not that that's going to matter a damn in the state of Alabama, and especially to the Alabama State Bar and Jeremy McIntyre. But we'll see. So, thinking I was going to wake up to Armageddon this morning, I was really happy to see a rainbow on the horizon, right? As opposed to what I suspected was going to be going on. So yeah, it turns out that it turned out to be a pretty good Friday the 13th after all, huh, Brandon?
Yeah, I think we kind of were lucky that we bombed Israel to death. I mean, but Israel bombed Iran to death before Iran had nuclear weapons. Because if they had a nuclear weapon that they could deliver, today was the time.
Well, it kind of sounds like exactly what Colin Powell lied to us all about 25 years ago about yellow cake uranium, and they're going to.
This was to prevent them, and I still believe there was weapons there, but they got shipped to Syria.
Yeah. Boy, the Queen's Loyal Terrier.
Those were it's not like Assad made his own chemical weapons.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I can make chemical weapons in the barn, man. I'm sure Jim in the hemp industry could help us out with some,
Not all the hemp in the world is going to make the reasons we went into Iraq make sense.
There you go. So tell me, what's the future for your company? Are you going to look to saturate the markets in the places where you can do business and ignore places like Alabama? Or are you going to keep chipping away at it?
Like I said, we're in distribution in Alabama. We're looking forward to doing good business with the good people of Alabama. We're also very concerned about this direct-to-consumer ban in Alabama, and we might want to address that. But we're all living in a future that we don't know which future we're living in. Do we live in the future where this ban in Texas takes effect and Texas goes dark forever? Or are we living in a future where Governor Greg Abbott vetoes SB 3 and we're living in a world where prohibition doesn't work in a place like Texas, in which case, we really got the wind at our backs, and revisiting state houses in places like Alabama will be on the top of our list next year.
So just so the listeners understand this, tonight, I can go out to a bar in Montgomery, and if they have your product at the bar, I can buy it over at the bar. But on July 1, I can only do it at grocery stores or specialty hemp shops that sell your product.
In packaged liquor stores. Yeah. That's correct. We just experienced an on-premise prohibition in Kentucky as well. Ours was June 1st. So we were able to enjoy on-premise hemp beverages by the drink in bars and restaurants in Kentucky until May 31st at midnight, and then it went dark. And Alabama is soon to follow suit.
So your website, right now I can order drinks from your website. Does your website have the capability of shutting down Texas sales, Alabama sales, Kentucky sales, where just people from certain states can get it?
Yes, sir. Our website is fully capable of blocking, like for instance, there's a certain state where our THC gummies have 10 milligrams of THC, and that exceeds the limit for that state. So any customer who puts that product in their cart, when it goes to the checkout page, it won't allow that state to in the mailing address to ship a product to. So we'll be able to enforce these rules, but these rules, I believe, are unconstitutional. There's a Supreme Court case called Granholm v. Held from 20 years ago that says very clearly you can't allow in-state activity while banning out-of-state competition. And this D2C ban does exactly that. So we'll be possibly looking for a remedy for Alabama passing the DREAM model legislation of the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America.
The good old interstate commerce clause. Dicks them every time.
Gets them every time.
Every time. All right. Well, we're going to watch this RFK thing as an outro. Thank you so much for your time, Jim. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Harry. Good to see you again, Brandon.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jim.
ASIP, this has been a long time coming. More than 2 decades ago, Congress investigated ASIP. The Government Oversight Committee found that, for example, that year, which was 2003, they gave one example that 4 out of the 5 people who added the rotavirus vaccine to the schedule had direct financial interest in that vaccine. One of those individuals voted the rotavirus onto the vaccine and sold his rotavirus vaccine that he had in development for $186 million. He said he won the lottery. That year, Congress said that 97% of the people on ASIP had undisclosed conflicts. So people have known about this for years. You know, probably the worst example of malevolent malpractice has been adding all of these new products to this schedule without doing pre-licensing safety studies. So in 1986, there were 11 vaccines on the schedule. Today, a compliant child must take between 69 and 92 vaccines to stay in school in some states. And not one of them has been safety tested in a pre-licensing placebo-controlled trial. And that is just malpractice. So the people who were in charge of that are now gone. And we're going to bring people onto the ASIP panel, not anti-vaxxers. We're bringing people on who are credentialed scientists, who are highly credentialed physicians, who are going to do evidence-based medicine, who are going to be objective, and who are going to follow the science.
Well, these are a couple of high-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high stepper. No step too high for a high stepper.